Okay, in this video today, I'm going to go over the Unit 11 test review. So, oops, sorry about that. So you should know all these definitions. They are in your notes, and we are going to apply them today in the study guide. But the three that are not on there that I would suggest you go back over, which are in lesson 11.3, are the observational study, the experiment, and the survey, and how they compare and contrast with one another. So we're going to put the sampling methods in order from least bias to most bias. So that means that we've got simple random sample as our least bias, then stratified, and that's because stratified, what we do is stratified is we have some people from all the groups represented. We group them first, and then we have some people from all the groups. Systematic sample is a sample where we take every so many people from a large sampling, and then cluster sample is when we take all of the people from some of the groups. So we group them first with a cluster, and then we take all of the people from some of the groups. Our last two are the most biased convenient sample. That's usually when you do what's most convenient. And self-selected is when you let people choose whether they participate in the sample or not. So this one here says a teacher wants to know if the students in her school prefer soccer or football. She teaches 80 students throughout the day. She asks her students which sport they would prefer. Identify the population in the sample. So remember, the population is always going to be the largest group. The sample is a portion of that group that you are collecting. So population is the students at the school, and the sample is going to be the 80 students a teacher taught throughout the day. A phone company wants to know if its customers are satisfied with their service, so 140 people are surveyed. The results that show that 63 people are satisfied. There are 1,300 people with the company's services, so find the statistic and the parameter, estimate how many people in the population are satisfied with their service, show the setup and solution as well as labeling the statistic and parameter. So the statistic is going to be the number of people that said they were satisfied over the number of people that were surveyed, okay? Then our parameter is our population, okay? So parameter is going to be equal to our population, and our population was the 1,300, okay? So when we set up this problem, we're going to do the statistic equal to x over the parameter. So this is going to be 63 over 140, and that's going to be equal to x. That's what we're going to solve for, over 1,300. When we do this problem, we're going to cross multiply, remember. So that's going to give us x, 140x is equal to 63 times 1,300. Now on the test, we want to see this right here, the setup, okay, and the answer. So make sure you do both of them to get all the points, okay? Here's number 5. In a survey of 250 households in a town, 97 watched the TV show. The town has 1,164 households. Find the statistic and parameter. Predict the number of households in the town that watched the television show. Show the setup and solution as well as labeling the statistic and parameter. So here's our statistic again. Remember again, it's going to be a ratio of the number of people that watched the show over the number of people that were surveyed, okay? And then our parameter, remember our parameter is our population, and it is 1,164. So once again, we're going to put our statistic, 97 over 250, and we're going to solve for the number of people over the total. And again, we're going to cross multiply here. So we're going to do this, which is x, 250x, right? And we're going to set that equal to the 97 times the 1,164. So what we will do is multiply that out on the right, divide by 250. So here again, on the test, you're going to give me the setup, which is this, and you're going to give me the answer, which is right there. And in this case, we had to round up because the answer was 451.63. All right, so number 6 is explain whether the situation is an experiment or an observational study. A school guidance counselor wants to know whether students with the older siblings who went to college are more likely to want to go away to college themselves. She interviews students about whether they have older siblings who went away to college and whether they are planning to themselves. So this would be an observational study because there was no control group, okay? So there weren't some that did some and some that didn't, okay? So that's really the key here. A nutritionist is researching the benefits of 2 different diet programs. She selects 50 people and has half of the group on Plan A and half on Plan B. Each week, the participants report how they feel, their weight changes, and any efforts on their daily lives. So this one would absolutely be an experiment because half are on Diet A and half are on Diet B. This one says explain whether the research topic is best addressed through an experiment or an observational study, and explain how you would set up the experimental or observational study. It says, does a certain shampoo work to reduce dandruff? So I would say that this is better done as an experiment where we could do half of the study group that uses the shampoo and half uses a placebo. And a placebo is just something that looks exactly the same, but is actually not the shampoo. This one says, does being a smoker cause people to get colds more often? So yeah, I would do observational on this one. Smoking is a known health hazard, so it would be unethical to ask people to smoke in a study. So anytime something's going to cause a health hazard, we would do an observational study, okay? So this one says, decide whether sampling method could result in biased sample. Explain your reasoning. So this is a researcher wants to know the average amount of student debt people who are earning degrees expect to have. So she surveys 50 randomly selected students on several college campuses with different tuitions and with many different kinds of programs. So I would say this is unbiased because they were randomly selected from several college campuses with different tuitions and different programs. If she did less, remember, what determines bias is when something is over or underrepresented. So nothing here is over or underrepresented. And that's the key to bias, okay? Is a group over or underrepresented? So this next one says a representative of the mall surveys over every 5th person walking into an electronics store to ask if that person would like there to be a new store that sells audio equipment in the mall. So it's an electronics store, and then audio equipment is the new store, okay? So what do y'all think? You think there's going to be bias here? I would say bias because they only surveyed the people that were entering into the electronics store about a new audio equipment store. And they are more likely to buy audio equipment if they're entering an electronics store, would you not think? Okay. So again, who's overrepresented, who's underrepresented? That's the question you want to ask yourself. So this one says decide whether the sampling method could result in biased sample. Explain your reasoning. A city council person wants to know if the city should allow more restaurants to build in their area, so she calls every 9th person in the town voter registration list to see how they feel. What do y'all think about this one? So this is definitely a systematic study of every person on the town's voter registration. So I would say this is unbiased because there shouldn't be, if she randomly does this, then, or not randomly, but calls every 9th person, then there shouldn't be anybody over or underrepresented. 14, a bakery is trying out a couple new items to sell. The employees decide to take samples to the fitness center next door to see if they would like the zucchini muffins or the double chocolate muffins as a new item. On this one, it could possibly be biased because people at the fitness center are already interested in good health practices, and they may be more likely to choose the zucchini muffin because they're perceived as being more healthy. But, it depends on who's at the gym that day as to whether it would be biased or not, okay? So now we're going to identify which sampling method is represented in the problems below. So the Gwinnett County Board of Education wants to know if teachers want the school year to begin to be 180 or 160 days. So there are 22 high schools in Gwinnett County. The Board of Education surveys all of the teachers at 2 of the schools. So we're talking about all the teachers at 2 of the schools. So what do y'all think? Yep, this is a cluster sample because it's all of the teachers at 2 of the schools, okay? So a popular YouTube channel wants to know which meme they posted that day in their stream viewers like the most. So they asked viewers to respond to a survey that they posted on their channel. So notice that they asked the viewers, right? So this one is going to be self-selected because they asked their viewers to respond. Number 17. One of the administrators at Archer High School wants to know which of the colors, red, white, and gray, students consider to be our school colors. So the administrator had the teacher survey every third student in their first period roles. So notice we surveyed every third student in all of first period roles, right? So every third person in every first period class, that's a systematic, right? Okay. Number 18, the coaches at Archer want to know which sport is most popular with students, so they decide to survey 200 students from the freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior classes. This would be a stratified because it's 200 students from each of the classes. Number 19, the Algebra 2 teachers want to know which test students considered to be hardest this semester, so they surveyed the students that were in their classes that day. This would be a convenience survey. Because they only surveyed the students that were in their classes that day, right? So number 20, Mr. Johnson decides he wants more viewers when he does raffles. So he puts the names of all the students in the school in a box and pulled out 10 of them and gave them a new iPhone 12. Yes, this is going to be simple random because all of the students in the school were in the box and 10 were selected. So I got one more for y'all. This wasn't on your study guide, but I want to go over it anyway. I took a poll of my first period class to see if they needed an extra day to study for the test. So 58% said no, and 42% said yes, with a margin of error plus or minus 6%. Was the poll conclusive? So here, when we do these types of problems, guys, what you're going to do is you're going to subtract 6 from the 58, and you're going to add 6 to the 58, and that's going to give you your lower and upper bounds. So 52 to 64% said no. And then we're going to do the same thing with this 42. Subtract 6 and add 6. So that's going to give us 36 to 48. So what we're looking for here are, do these intervals overlap? So this is, I want to show you guys because one of my classes asked me to do this. So when I do this, I got 36 to 48, right? And then the other one is 52 to 64. So no, is there any overlap right here, guys? No, you also notice there's a gap right there between those numbers. So since there is no overlap in the intervals, the survey was conclusive. Now, if there was overlap in those intervals, then it would be inconclusive. In other words, we couldn't really say, the poll didn't really help us determine anything, okay?